Does anyone still believe in paradise?
He believes that a true man of God is one that devotes himself to a cause greater than himself. Sheldon D. Smith is known in Chicago as the mentor. Simply put, he's been mentoring young youth for over 25 years. An ordained deacon, he is an excellent philanthropist who is also known as the Fly Guy of Chicago. Now, with all that being said, I'm looking forward to being able to talk to you the Jenleeion Circle about your work with the youth and about your endeavors going forward. First of all, I'll say, how you doing?
I'm great, Mario, and I just want to pause and say thank you, the world's greatest journalist. Thank you to the entire Jenleeion team for welcoming me and inviting me down to the Jenleeion Circle. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I definitely appreciate that. And one of the reasons why that I was excited to talk to you is, again, you are known as the mentor.
Yes.
And one of the things that stuck out to me is that even Michelle Obama recognized you for your work with helping the youth, right?
Yes, yes, she did.
And you got into mentoring because, of course, it's a nationwide plight, but more specifically in Chicago where you are, single mothers raising black youth, right?
Yes.
And not having that male figure. Take me all the way back to what got you into wanting to mentor?
Yes, great. Thank you. It was in 1997 when I was complete with college and I returned home. And I noticed that my community had changed. It was single mothers raising predominantly young boys. And when I grew up in that community in the 70s, it was two-parent homes and families with what you would consider the tradition house with the white picket fence. Well, fast forward, these mothers were struggling with these boys because communities change and there was an infestation of gang violence and activity. There was an infestation of drug trafficking. Crack cocaine had come on the rise. And so I was like, I need to give back to the community that I was nurtured in. Commune means to come together. Yeah. And so I took my interest to the next level and I decided to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And I united with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Metropolitan Chicago. I was united with a young man, Nathaniel Thornton. He was 11 years old at the time, my first mentee. And I am proud to say that everything about his life emulates mine. So it was a positive experience for him.
Well, take me deeper into that everything in his life sort of emulates ours as much as you can, I guess reserving some of his privacy, but tell us what you mean by that.
So when I began to develop my relationship with him, so we know that mentorships are about fostering healthy relationships, and there's a nurturing component to that. Well, Nate was one of those young people that was growing up in my community under a single mom, and she was getting frustrated because she was overwhelmed. His father had taken a life outside of him, and so he was a little edgy, you know. He would challenge her, he would test her. You know, when boys get to a certain age, they begin to smell themselves, and he was a little rebellious. And so he didn't have a male role model in his life. And so when I came into his life, he began to kind of wind down. You know, he began to concentrate more on school. I talked and taught him about the importance of a quality education and the importance of concentrating on a positive education. He graduated elementary school, went on to high school. He began to find his way through athleticism. He played football. The high school he went to had a very good high school football team. They always did. And so he began to focus on his academics. And then I talked to him about college. And he began to be interested in higher education. What does that look like for me? Where do I fit into that? And so I helped him understand that there is an HBCU out there for you. There's a place for you. We have our own schools. If you don't fit into one branch of society, there is a branch of society for you. So he went away. I went away to an HBCU. I attended Southern University University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am a proud Southern alum, go Jags. And he went to Prairie View A&M in Texas. And so he is a proud Panther. And I am a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. He became a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I am involved in my church. I'm a deacon. He became a part of the faith-based community. And now he's living a successful life in Texas. He remained in Texas. He found his way. He's a proud father, and he's executed all of the tools that I attempted to equip him with. It comes a time in a young person's life where we have to let them soar out of the nest. And we know that when eagles soar, they typically soar above the rest. And so I'm proud of him.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic, because one of the reasons why that this speaks to me is obviously, you know, in sort of a mentorship capacity is what I see it, but I adopted 4 boys, right?
That's awesome.
Who all have come from the similar story, you know, being raised by a single mother, and unfortunately things ended up a bit lower than that, where they ended up in foster care. And that's the piece of it that I'm hopeful for, is that, you know, through the rebellion, through the frustration, that, you know, they somehow get to that finish line where they can experience what your mentee experienced. So the pride that you have, take me there.
Yes, so when I look back and I see the fruits of my labor, because it started with Nathaniel, but it's ongoing with several others. And so I'm also proud to say that I am responsible for a young man in a community in Chicago, an at-risk community. He's the first male in his family to go away to college, graduate from college, and now he's working on his master's degree. And I had to stay on him about taking school serious. Had I given up on him and walked away from the experience, then I don't know where he would be. Now, that's not to say if he didn't get success through the experience he garnered with me, that he would not have landed a successful life. But I do know that because I was resilient with him, I was persevering with him, I cried with him, I laughed with him, we huddled together, we got mad together. It was about the relationship. All of those characteristics come in relationship and bonding. And so I'm responsible for the young people that I've been able to give scholarships to, that I've been able to take on college tours. I don't only talk to them about college, I take them to the college. Exposure is everything. Kids can't be what they haven't seen. And so I can't tell them a good story. I have to be present in the story and show all things and make all things visible for them.
Absolutely. And I think I'm a huge believer in, you know, preparation meeting opportunity. Shelton grew up on the south side of Chicago, and he had a decent relationship with his father and his maternal and paternal grandfathers, and touts them for being what put him on the road to being able to help youth in future. Take me back to your childhood, right? You had a great relationship with your dad, unlike the youth that you help, right? Tell me about the tools, the survival tools that you feel that your father and your maternal and paternal grandfathers gave you.
Wow, those were some gentle giants. They were what one would identify as a man's man. My father was a proud Marine. He fought in the Vietnam War. And my dad rests in heaven now. He rests in peace. He passed away 10 years ago in 2012. But my father taught me the most important thing I can say that he taught me, amongst many, was the golden rule of life. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Something I talk to my son about all the time, yes.
That's powerful, because sometimes when you're young and your mind is still developing, you don't understand things. I remember my dad told me I wanted a car. And my uncle, my mother's brother, offered to purchase me a car. Well, at 17, 18, for a young man, a guy, a car is everything. My father denied me the opportunity to get the car, and I couldn't understand it. And I was like, why he don't want Uncle George to buy me the car? Why? I talked to my mom about it, and my mother said, just trust your dad's decision. Later on, I learned the teaching component in that. The element of teaching in that was anything that you have is worth working for. Now at 17, 18, had my uncle purchased the car for me, yeah, I would have had a nice car. Would I have been able to keep the maintenance up? Would I have even been able to put gas in it? The only thing I probably could have done responsibly was drive it. And so my father knew that there was a bigger responsibility at the end of it other than just having a car. My paternal grandfather, his dad, was a Pullman porter. And we know that that's historical. He was a gentle giant. He spoke prophecy over me and said, "You're going to be a preacher." And when I got ready to do the deacon walk, it was a very intense training. It's 15 months. And I prepared myself, and every session that I went to, I was reminded of those words that my grandfather spoke to me. And I was determined that I was not going to quit. 15 months is a long time. My maternal grandfather, oh my God, we were very close. He was the first to introduce me to sports. The first professional sporting event I went to was a Chicago White Sox game because he was an advocate baseball fan. He was advocate about baseball. And so he was adamant about it. So we went to Chicago White Sox games regularly. We would travel together to his home state of Mississippi in the city of Port Gibson. We took Amtrak trains together because it was time spent on the train. It went quick and fast. And he taught me about tipping. He taught me about keeping a certain dollar amount in my pocket as a man. He taught me about the importance of getting a shoe shine. He taught me the importance of how you treat a lady. He taught me how to be a man in a relationship. If it means that you have to walk away, walk away. But a man never puts his hand on a woman. And so there was some very impactful and powerful teaching moments. My grandfather didn't really believe in whoopings. We weren't bad kids, my cousins and my siblings and I, but there were times where we had to be chastised because we were children. But at the end of the experience, my grandfather showed us how to love. And those are all things that I took away from the gentle giants who were the men in my life. That
and without love,
me.
you definitely have anything. And again, those principles are something that you live by that gave you the nerve to be able to say, hey, gee, let me pass this on to someone else, especially in the context of at-risk youth. I think that's fantastic. You just touched on your faith, which is something that I wanted to bring up as well. You said you would be a preacher, and you've been a deacon for about 21 years,
yes,
right?
Yes.
The heart of your faith is what?
Wow. The heart of my faith is to know that God will never leave me nor forsake me. I am on the battlefield. It's nothing that could be needed in God's vineyard that I would turn my back on or turn away from. Being a deacon has taught me so much humbling. It's taught me how God shows up in the unexpected, when you don't understand and you really don't have words and you really don't know. All you can do is trust. That's the heart of my faith, to trust and know that God is with me, that God is with all of us, that even though things look gray and what looks impossible can be made possible. That's faith. That's belief. Jesus has already showed us. He's already told us. We know the Bible is basic instructions before leaving earth. It's a tool and a guide for our everyday living. The Word of God is the template for life. He's told us where He is in our lives. He's ordered our steps. And so my faith is to continue to help someone along the way of life so that my living is not in vain.
So that my living is not in vain. And I think the best way that anyone can make sure that their living is not in vain is being of service to other people. And so the entirety of your deaconhood, as I would say, has it all been spent with the Trinity United Church of Christ, of God, or?
Yes, it has. I was ordained a deacon on December 30th of 2001. And the world-renowned pastor, Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr. of Trinity United Church of Christ, which we are the same church that President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama were members of. He is the pastor that ordained me. I've been a member of Trinity for 24 years. Prior to becoming a deacon, I was in Bible study. And then after the conversations with my grandfather and feeling God's calling upon me, because it was a thirst to do more. I was doing some things but wanted to do more things, feeling like I wasn't doing enough things. And so I submitted for the Deacon in Training program, and things unfolded. I became a part of the class of 2001 and was ordained, and I've been on visits. I've gone into juvenile detention centers. I've gone into the prison walls. When you talk about at-risk youth, I consider myself a servant. The Word of God says, I came to serve, not to be served. And to be Christian means to be like Christ. And so when we talk about mentorships and emulating, I just identified how a young man emulated me. So me keeping God at the forefront of my life allows me to emulate my God, my Father, the ultimate Father. And so in doing that, I've been able to give back in so many ways. I've been able to feed and help the homeless. I've been able to adopt schools. I've been able to give in so many ways to inspire others and help people in different walks of life and from different phases of life, because diversity is a part of our world. There are people from different communities and different experiences, but we judge not, because we don't want to be judged. And so I embrace and share unconditional love for all people, for all reasons.
I think that's fantastic. Now, you strike me as a person that is rich with empathy, right?
Yes.
So you help the youth, but those single mothers, right? Those single mothers that are struggling to be able to raise a young black man in, I'm going to say, the constraints, societal constraints that exist in this particular country, albeit we constantly strive to break down barriers. Speak directly to that mother, right? You've had the nerve to help young black men. Speak directly to that mother. What can she do to find more Sheltons for her son?
Mom, one of the things that you can do is start in your community by finding out about structured programs. Talk to your son, talk to your daughter, talk to your young person in your space. Your home is your sanctuary. Own that. Give them some principles, give them some ethics, help them understand how the world evolves and how they can evolve in the world. Talk to them about free will and choice and decisions that we make. Help them understand certain principles of life, and then find structured programs, because there are other Sheltons out there, but we have to be intentional. We can't say because it doesn't land at our doorstep that it's not there, because it's out there. We have to go out there, seek and you shall find, because it's out there. Don't give up. Don't ever give up, because the experience and the opportunity out there for your son is awaiting your son's present. All he has to do is show up. So when your young person gets to that experience and that opportunity, help them understand how to go with an open mind. Because boys like discipline, and boys need discipline. Boys require discipline. It's a process of tough love that they can respect. And they understand how to respect that. Boys will understand how to process that. And so even with your daughter, teach them the principles of final womanhood. Teach them the qualities of what respect and a lady looks like. We see it. Our young people are on social media. Our young people are watching reality TVs. Grab their computer one day. Just go in there and grab it unexpectedly and see what they're doing on social media. Who are they online? Is that the same person they are that's in your house? Because they could be somebody very different. Their alter ego could be who they are online, and the person that you know them to be in the home is somebody completely different. But do your investigation and then bring them to the opportunities that are out there awaiting on them. But once again, be intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. And your thoughts on the fact that, when we look at social media often perpetuates the negative thoughts that teens may have about themselves and children, right, so to speak.
Yes.
So from a parental perspective, especially as someone who's trying to, be an effective mentor for young people, how do you cut through the clutter of all of that negativity? How do you cut through, again, we have a situation where suicide rates among teen and young children have exploded exponentially over the past 3 years, right? And it's largely due to social media, right? So part of being able to affect a child, as you already understand, is being able to cut through that clutter.
Yes.
What is your recommendation for at least attempting to do that?
So I believe in accountability and I believe in ownership. And I prefaced it with that because I believe that all things start in the home. Teachings and best practices start at home. And so if your young person is at an age that you find that they can handle social media, because it's a lot out there. If you find that they can handle it, teach them how to utilize it responsibly. I believe in teaching kids how to understand anti-bullying campaigns. There are a lot of bullying and suicide. It can be cyberbullying, it can be in-person bullying. But teach your young person how there is cause and effect. What that effect will have on a family because you coerced some child to slit their wrist or take some drugs or to experiment with something that caused them loss of life.
Yeah.
And bullying, you're doing it because you want to fit in or you want to be accepted. So you don't want to be the target, so you help someone else become the target. So you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. So those are some teaching components and techniques that parents, guardians, role models, father figures, mother figures, the community, extended families, the village has to pull together, because remember, we understand and know that it takes a village to raise a child. If the child isn't getting it at home, maybe the child gets it in a mentoring program like what Brother Shelton has to offer it. Maybe they get it at the Boys and Girls Club. Maybe they get it at the local YMCA. But wherever they're getting it, as long as they get it, that's what's important. We don't want our young people to have to go through life and live with that type of burden that because of you, somebody else has become deceased. You caused the loss of life.
Shelton, what is self-esteem?
Self-esteem is the characteristic of how one feels about themselves. You can have low self-esteem, you can have high self-esteem. It's how confident, how comfortable you are with the skin that you're in. I believe that we're all bold and born to win. I believe that we are all pregnant with possibilities, and I believe that we all have an advantage to reach our full potential in life. We'll all go down different paths. Some of the roads will be very turbulent, they will be very bumpy. That's where faith, resilient, perseverance, some of those things we talked about earlier, that's where those ingredients fit in. Some of the roads will be very paved, and they will be very smooth, and they will be without obstacle, and they will be without circumstance. But whatever it is, wherever you are, and whatever skin you're in, love who you are because you know whose you are. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. God don't make no mistakes and God don't make no junk. Now I know that might sound cliche, but that's speaking truth to power. That's real talk for real people. And so if your self-esteem is straddled, if you're not sure, then I empower you to look in the mirror, say to yourself, I love who I am and I love who God made me to be.
I love who I am and I love who God made me to be. That is fantastic. You've become Chicago's fly guy. Tell me how.
Yes, I have. Well, I am, in addition to the mentoring and a lot of the other things that I do, I am also a radio and TV personality. I became the Chicago Fly Guy. I was the co-host of the Ada Blue and Smitty show on Old School Radio, and I was the Chicago Fly Guy. We did the afternoon day party, which was phenomenal. It was a fun show. We had an international, we were global. We had an audience of listeners in UK and London and other places, and it was just extremely fun. In addition to that, I was the guest ringmaster for the Universal Circus, which will be coming back to Chicago on September 9th of 2022. I was the guest ringmaster for that, and I am now the Chicago Fly Guy co-host of the Simeon Henderson Show. And so the Chicago Fly Guy has gone on to host many events and do some very stellar things. I was the host of the Glitz and Gala event for the Women's Board of the DuSable Museum in Chicago. I was the host of the 100 National Black Women's Coalition, where many young women were honored because they are powerful. P-O-W uppercase H-E-R. There's power. See, that's how we affirm ourselves. What we say, there's power in the tongue, and what we say and what we believe is what we will execute. And so I'm just very proud of the experiences and the opportunities that God has gifted me with.
I think that's fantastic. So the fly guy is the fun part of it.
Yes.
Define what makes you fly.
Well,
because I want to be a fly guy.
That was a name that I was given and accepted and adopted.
But you
it had to do with style.
So define it. Yeah.
It had to do with my style and how I dress and the fashion. I like Zodas. I wear Zoda shoes. They're pointy toe shoes. I like neckties. I like bow ties. I wear classic suits. I like sometimes a vintage varsity look. I like. I always took pride, and that goes back to my grandfather. My maternal grandfather was what would be considered the best dressed horseman. He never wore a pair of jeans until he got older in life. If we had a family event, he may not always have on a suit, but he always had on a nice button-down shirt and some slacks. And when he got older, I would begin to say, "Grandpa, you need a pair of jeans, you need some Levi's, you need a pair of Jabots or something, some nice jeans." And then he finally became around to that, but he was the best dressed horseman. So I adopted that from him, taking pride in who I am. I don't believe sagging pants.
And having style. I'm a double threat guy.
Style, yes. I don't believe in sagging pants. We know what sagging spells backwards and the reverse of that. And so we don't identify with things that identify as something less than who we are. We have to understand that. That goes back to the young people. We adopt things because we choose to be more followers than leaders. Now that might sound harsh, but that's truth. We look at television or we look at somebody in our neighborhood and we want to emulate that. There are good role models out there, but there are also bad role models out there. There are people that you want to emulate, and there are people that you should not emulate. And so what we have to do, once again, parents, we have to monitor what our children are doing. If your son wears a 30 in the waist, he shouldn't be asking you to buy him a size 34. Sagging and looking at the back of someone's underwear, why is that exposed to society? What's complimenting about that? Absolutely. Somebody help me understand that. Where's that a compliment? Whoever walked up to somebody and said, "I like the back of your underwear. I like that Hanes logo on the back of your backside"?
Yeah, it's especially, you set yourself in the context of, unless someone's perverse, but even perverse people don't do that in public.
Well, and understanding where that derived from.
Yeah.
Now, if you take where that originated from and project that onto someone that's wearing that and with that appearance, there probably would be offense taken.
Exactly.
But you have to know.
But yeah, look at how you're dressed.
Exactly. You have to understand that, and we know what profiling is. We know what prejudice is. It's to prejudge, but people only take you as serious as you take yourself.
Absolutely.
And we have to teach and empower our young black boys and young black men who are bold and born to win, to execute excellence in appearance, in mannerisms, in behavior, and in accountability.
So rapid fire, I'll begin the sentence and I want you to end it, right, with a short phrase. I am
awesome. I am who God created me to be. I am bold and born to win. I am the son of a mother who would give her life for me. I am on the battlefield. I am in the trenches. And I am determined to live for Christ.
I will
continue to serve young black boys and young black men. I will continue to uplift my community. I will continue to stand for a cause that is greater than I. I will continue to live out the dreams of my late father, my late grandfather on my mother's side, and my late grandfather on my paternal side.
I won't.
I won't become incarcerated. I won't give up. I won't lose hope. I will continue to help other people excel. That's why I won't lose hope. I won't deny any young person a fair chance and a fair opportunity at quality success.
And lastly, I wish
I had began this journey a whole lot sooner. I could have saved a whole lot more lives.
Wow, fantastic. Well, if everyone doesn't know yet, where can individuals follow you on social media, Shelton?
They can follow Shelton Smith on Facebook. I am Shelton Smith. They can follow me on Instagram at Shelton Smith, the Chicago Fly Guy.
Well, there you have the fly guy sitting down with us in the Jenleeion circle. Shelton D. Smith is definitely a person who walks the walk and talks the talk. And I love that you live by the philosophy that a real man of God, is one who believes in a cause that is greater than himself. I paraphrase that into my own way, but I love that you live by that. I think it's fantastic. We look forward to our partnership. I look forward to being able to get involved to see how I can also assist in continuing my work with mentorship. I can't adopt the whole world because I done adopted 4, but they feel like I've adopted 100. But taking care
I know.
of kids. But definitely giving back will definitely be it. So again, Shelton, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a phenomenal experience. Always remember, there are 2 types of people in the world, ordinary and extraordinary. The only difference in the 2 are those who are willing to do a little extra. That's from Jimmy Johnson.
Until next time, everybody, I'm Mario Bonds. Bye-bye.
Does anyone still believe in paradise?